Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are usually two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But today we are four best friends because we are welcoming back to the podcast Sara and Lilly of Fiction Fans fame. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Wonderful
As
to
always.
be back.
Of course, we had to have another installment this year of Nostalgia Book Club.
Only this is different because did anyone read this as a child?
No.
I did read them, but I was like 18.
I'm going to say that's adulthood.
Yeah.
Laura, did you read this book as a child?
No. I read this
Oh.
as a 28-year-old, 29-year-old.
Well, that's kind of all of our journeys with it. Was this anyone's first time reading Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief?
It was my first time, yes.
Oh,
It was
welcome to the
also
club.
a journey to find.
Really?
Partially my fault, but I've been using bookshop.org for ebooks. Highly recommend. It was not on there. So I was like, okay, great. I'll go to Barnes & Noble. I checked the YA section. It wasn't there. And I was like, there's no way they put this under like fantasy, right? They
Right.
didn't. It was in the kids section with the
It's
picture
probably middle grade.
books. Yeah.
It's like a middle grade book. This is like a children's story.
Yeah.
Ah, that's
That
I'm
was
amazing.
kind of
my
shocked by that
West.
because I feel like at my local library, it's a very popular book that like I've seen actually like I checked when I read the books for the first time, I was like really into them and was like checking them out from the library. And I remember like seeing a child from the community that I knew and she was like, "Oh, you read these?" And I was like, "Yes." And we are not the same age. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll just check my book out and go.
That's so fun. I was recently playing a Silk Song. It's like the Hollow Knight sequel. And she has like a log journal where she talks about people. And there's one monster, there's one like guy you have to fight who's reading something. And she, if you look at her notes, she's like, is he even reading that? And I was like, wow, you have like Hornet being like, does he even read? Like, so sassy. But yeah, Lily, you were the first. This is your first time. Laura, I think you're kind of our resident Rick Riordan expert because you listened to a podcast about these books as well,
Yes.
didn't
So
you?
the whole reason I got into the series was because I was listening to the Newest Olympian that's hosted by Mike Schubert, and he does kind of a breakdown of all of Rick Riordan's works. So he's far beyond this original series, the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, but he's basically made a career out of covering these middle grade books, and he does a very entertaining take on the series, and it's been really fun to listen to that, and that's why I picked up the books in the first place.
And then Sarah, you said this wasn't your first time with it. You read it when you were 18. So
Right. I read it in college. Um, I don't remember why I picked up the books, and I read the first like four. I don't think I finished the series because I'm not sure if the final books were out. But I
Mhm.
read at least like three or four. Um, and I borrowed them from my university library.
Oh, interesting. Well, I know that the movie came out in 2010. I don't know if that had any overlap with like the reason to
It,
inspire you,
I,
but
I'm pretty sure it was the movie.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think I tried to read them first in college, and I think I read the first few chapters, and then I was like, I'm busy. I don't need to read this book. And then I came back to them as an adult, and I recently read the entire series via audio. So I actually don't think, well, I did not read the first book for the podcast this time around because I'm pretty sure I read them all within the last year. So it's
Mhm.
like, they're fresh enough. I've got this one. So, um, but yeah, I read through the whole series this year as well. So we're all coming with different levels of experience with Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. So, should we dive in? I can give a brief overview that this follows Percy Jackson, a 12-year-old boy who finds out that he is a demigod in the first couple of chapters. That goes on for quite a while if you look at the plot breakdown, because he's like on a field trip and he has to defeat this fury, and then he gets gaslit by his best friend Grover and his Latin teacher Mr. Brunner, saying that this woman never existed and no one remembers her. um, and then he has to finish out the school year after this very traumatic experience happened. um, and afterwards he goes home, he kind of runs away from Grover, and his mom takes him on a trip out to Montauk, where Grover has to come rescue her and Percy, and they have to go to this camp Half-Blood for demigods. And we think that Percy's mom dies in the first book, which is very traumatic and not talked about enough. We're just like, oh yes, she might be dead or might not be. Who knows? And we find out that Mr. Brunner is really Chiron, a
Centaur.
Centaur
thank
Mentor.
you. Centaur Mentor. Oh, thank you. The Centaur Mentor.
Perfect.
And we also meet Annabeth Chase, who is the half daughter of Athena, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes,
The half-blood,
Athena.
the half-blood daughter of
Okay.
Athena. Mhm.
Yes, and then they all have to go on Annabeth, Percy, and Grover have to go on a quest to get Zeus's master bolt, because they all think Percy stole it after he is revealed to be the half son of Poseidon. And
Yeah,
the
because there
three,
weren't any children of the big three, Poseidon, Hades,
yes,
or Zeus, because
they
they
all
swore an
agreed
oth not to have children.
because
And
of
you know
World
how
War II.
you know how reliable Greek gods are about their philandering. Very.
I just like that they're like, look, there were a lot of wars with our children and World War II, and we're not going to mention who was fighting for who. It was just bad all around. Like, um, and so they go off, and before they leave, a child who's not suspicious at all, named Luke, gives Percy some shoes, because he is the half son of
Hermes.
Hermes. And then they go on this trip. They battle a lot of monsters, and in the end, they meet Ares, the god of war, who sneaks the lightning bolt into Percy's hands. He's the one who was helping facilitate all of this, and Percy has to get the lightning bolt back to Zeus. He meets his father, and we find out that Luke was the bad guy all along in a twist that shocked nobody who's an adult. But and,
What?
and then he almost kills Percy, and they discuss that they all are going to come back next year after Luke ran away. So that is a brief overview for listeners who have never read this very, very famous book or watched any of the movies or TV show.
So I have one question about the whole premise of this.
Only
right?
one? That's astounding.
Okay,
Totally
not,
holds up otherwise.
not only one, but I have one major question, which is they send like the camp sends Percy and Annabeth and Grover on this quest, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, it's really important you get to the whole other side of the country in the next like 7 days or 10 days or something. You've got a really limited period of time here. But we're only going to give you like $200. We're going to put you on a Greyhound. Like there is a reason why they can't just fly. So that's
Yes.
explained. But like, why do they not do Amtrak to start with?
I don't, because
Like
the
they,
camp was not near where they could have taken Amtrak,
I mean, they
maybe?
were in the
Question mark.
woods.
but they
Sarah's
have
like,
to,
no, but why?
but they have to go to like New York
Mhm.
to start. That's where they pick up the Greyhound.
Yeah.
Can't you pick up trains in New York?
I
Not
don't know
always.
why
No, not always.
Okay, could they not get to a place where they could pick up a train
Yeah, I don't know
pretty
why
easily?
trains were never involved. They said bus because like incognito, I guess.
But
Maybe like
they get on a train later.
I know. I
Why
don't
do they not just start off on a train?
I think
It bothers
maybe
me a
just
lot.
for the story of it all,
I
just
do
to add some flavor. I do think with the money, isn't that explained that they have like these Greek coins that can be like become
They have
currency
they
that
have a
other
little bit
people
of
use?
both. Oh, they say that the golden drachmas are the currency of the gods.
yes.
Yeah.
But we don't see them using that with mortals, I don't think.
No.
Okay, I was under the impression that at some point they were able to like turn those into
So I always
mortal
felt
money.
I always fall back on a lot of these books are written by adults who really know kid logic and
Hmm.
Hmm.
what kids want to read. So when you're an adult reading it, you're like, this is a job for the Amtrak, and you cannot tell me differently. But like kid logic is like, oh, we have to take a bus first because I know buses, and we only have $200 because we're on a quest, and we've got this. And it is supposed to like drum up the drama because like this book is weird if you think about it. Percy Jackson is
Oh,
12 years old and they just like ship him off, and like yes, Grover is technically an adult, but Grover is the
which has
adult.
weird things about that too.
They were also friends in a boarding school, so let's just
Yeah,
keep going.
Yeah,
we'll circle back to that.
they're kind of like you can't stare directly at the fact that Grover is an adult because that no, he's like a childlike adult.
Well,
So,
but
like,
I mean, they do say that satyrs age at a different rate.
yes.
So it's not
This this
even
gets
though
into the Twilight Bella Edward relationship of it all, where it's like, well, he looks 18.
Like they said like he'd live for longer, so I think it's that like not to bring it back to Arrested Development, but Arrested Development of it all of like yes, I'm in my 30s, but technically I'm still a child when you consider the satyr of it all, where like I would live for hundreds of years, so really I'm still very young, so
he's
it's
like a
okay that I'm
hobbit.
hanging out with
Mhm.
children. Like,
It's like the hobbits, you know, they don't get
Ah,
to adulthood until 30 or whatever.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm able to believe the Hobbit more.
I do think the
It
hobbit is
seems less bothersome when it's the Hobbit and there's no like 12-year-old children involved.
Yeah,
also fair.
if you met Aragorn and he was just a 12-year-old being like, we're the same age, you would be a little bit bothered by
Yeah, when
it.
Frodo is like, I'm 50, come along with me, young child, it's like, no.
But it is very child logic of like, well,
Yeah.
Percy Jackson has to go on this quest. He has to be young and on a bus. But like, I think people would have questions if you saw a 12-year-old traveling for long distances by themselves. Like, that is concerning. But
I
no,
do
it's
know
just
something that
magic.
they talk about a lot on the Newest Olympian podcast is that Rick Riordan, I think it's Riordan, or I'm not sure if it's Riordan or Riordan, how you say his name, but anyways, I'm going to say Riordan just to be consistent. That he is from Texas, and a lot of the setting of the story is in New York City, and the host of the Newest Olympian lives in New York City, and so he often points out like flawed things happening within the storytelling because he's like, this is a man who does not know New York City because we would not do that, or that seems really dumb to do X, Y, or Z. So I also think there's a little bit of that happening where he's maybe like kind of hoping people don't look into this that deep.
I
Like the
really
Dresden
liked
Files when they go out into the suburbs for an all-night club, and you're like, what's
Yes.
happening? You live in Chicago.
Like McDonald's isn't even open all night
Yeah.
out there.
I really liked when Percy was comparing navigating Los Angeles with navigating New York City. I was like, really, kid? Is that how they're
It's
different? Thank you for
comparable.
telling me.
It's just like you just don't understand. I know. I'm a 12-year-old.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is a very strange kid logic-y book where
Yeah.
like, you can't look too close at it because they have to travel, they have to go to different cities.
Hmm.
They have to hit the highlights of Las Vegas, LA, and of course, St. Louis, like
Shout out Midwest. We had to make a stop.
oh, that was always a confusing scene for me in the book when he like goes up into the St. Louis Arch and I'm like, what are we doing here? This feels strange.
Well, I know like on their quest, so they have I think I want to remember that and I could be wrong on this, that each of the people who are at Camp Half-Blood, they are only allowed to like go on one quest, and be chosen for a quest is like a big honor. And so Percy being chosen like right away to go on this quest is like a huge honor. And so I was thinking that in this first book that there were these stops that they had to make along the way because they were like kind of directed towards these locations that it was like it's a bit of a mystery as well to try and figure out who actually has stolen the lightning bolt. So they're kind of directed towards these locations and they're trying to kind of find clues at each spot too. So I don't know that it's necessarily just like incredibly random that they're like, let's go in the St. Louis Arch.
I think it was Annabeth who was just into um
She
Not
is into
archaeology.
architecture.
Architecture,
Yes.
thank you.
She wants to be
Yeah.
an yeah.
They Riordan kind of tried to explain away some of it with the gods can't get involved themselves. It has to be the children
Yes.
Yes.
because it like they're demigods, so they're allowed to meddle in a way that the gods are not. Which is also why no one's allowed to help the children.
That would just be too easy.
Yes.
I and I think we've talked about this often where like you often have orphans in a book to kind of be like, well, this is why this child is so active because there are no
hmm
parents involved. So
Or
this is like,
boarding schools.
yeah.
hmm
And so it's like, no, the parents can't are literally unable to get involved because if they do, it's a huge problem, which is a good reason to kind of have this like very layered story that has a lot of interesting themes because these are all children who do not have a strong relationship with a very specific parental figure. And you
Mhm.
do get to see a lot of them like struggle with that throughout the books, where we see it with like Annabeth, which she obviously loves her mother and kind of deifies her mother, but she also feels very isolated from her father and she doesn't have like a strong connection and she feels very isolated. And you have Percy, who doesn't really know his dad, and he has an abusive stepfather
Who
who
stinks?
Yeah.
stinks, but like that is something very traumatic. And we also hear that a lot of these kids do have traumatic pasts because of their
Hmm.
connections with gods. And then it all kind of comes full circle with Luke, who feels like he's missing out on something and missing out on kind of like his power or his appreciation, and it turns him to the dark side. So I do think even though Riordan kind of uses this to close some very big loopholes, it is interesting to kind of see like gods for children and how messy they are, because that's one of the most interesting part of Greek gods. So it's interesting to see it from
Hmm.
a young person's perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it portrayed that way in a way that's maybe more like accessible for kids because I think when we read Greek stories that are like aimed at adults, we are very much able to be like, oh yeah, obviously Greek gods are, they're omnip like they're these omnipresent beings. They don't care at all what happens to other people and they don't really care about their kids and we're able to kind of just like remove them from the situation a bit. But I think when you're a kid, it's very difficult. Like I know even like my sister has said to me before in relation to dogs, like she said, "Do you think that my dog misses his mom and dad?" So I think like well, kids
Yeah.
think in that
Yeah.
way where
hmm
they think about a family unit. So I think when we're talking about Greek gods, we're getting like sprinkles of information about Greek gods. We're not getting like in-depth information on them, but it's a way to kind of introduce kids to Greek mythology and also kind of explain the ways that like parental units work in this way and how also like families exist in a lot of different ways too,
hmm
and that is something I think that is very relatable to kids, and I kind of appreciated it a little bit honestly because we do have these different representations of relationships.
I mean,
Yeah.
for all that I have some issues with just the logistics of this book, I'm also reading it as an adult,
Oh, same.
which
Yeah.
is not fair to the book because I think it's a great kids book. I think that it has a really good message and is a great introduction to Greek mythology and
Hmm.
brings that mythology in an accessible way. Like not everyone is going to be reading D'Aulaire's Book of Greek Mythology as a child necessarily,
Right.
but they might be reading this.
Well, and honestly, for it coming out in 2005, it holds up fairly well. I mean, there's some things like I don't always like the disability representation because we have Mr. Brunner, who is a wheelchair user, and I don't know. There's some iffy things surrounding that. I do, however, like that Percy is someone who has ADHD and he is dealing with dyslexia. I thought that was interesting that we have a character who has dyslexia that and ADHD who struggles with school and everything, and then we kind of like have this awakening for him where he's told like, "Oh no, you're fine. Like that's not something that's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. These are the reasons why you think that way or do these things." So I do like that kind of representation. But yes, there are issues like Grover being an adult. There are issues with Aries getting involved in some of these
Oh,
situations.
Aries. and the tunnel of love. Um,
I thought it was fascinating which tropes got followed almost to the letter and then which ones did get played with. I mean, speaking of the stepdad, he's like a classic evil step parent. So
yes.
while it is great that this book explores that like there are families with different structures that look different, I don't know if it portrays the step parents very well. Because
No.
Annabeth's stepmom is awful too.
Hmm.
At least
So
Annabeth
Yeah.
thinks that she's awful.
That's a
Yes.
good
true.
point. They could be unreliable
Well,
characters that we
I
can't
And
necessarily trust them as 12-year-olds.
I
and
don't necessarily think that Percy is unreliable about
Well,
smelly Gabe because
yeah,
yeah.
we do learn that he's been hitting his mother.
yes.
So I think that he's probably pretty terrible.
Hmm.
But I'm less certain about Annabeth's perspective on her stepmother because she ran away when she was 7 and hasn't seen her stepmother since. And I
Yes.
don't think 7-year-olds are necessarily the best judge of character.
I
We
I
usually don't
agree with
associate them with
you.
that.
She does say that she tried to return home for like one summer or something, and it was terrible and ended up coming back, although
Yeah,
she was still quite young at the time.
Yeah.
I will say it's interesting to have the perspective from Lily as someone who's only read the first book and being like, this
Mm,
is what I saw from the representation of the
Hmm.
stepmother. Because I do think in future books that's played with a little bit
Yeah.
more. But
okay.
like if this is the one and only book you read, the representation of step parents is not great because you have
Hmm.
like two people who are not very kind. And it is a deep struggle for all the kids.
Hmm. Another thing, Hannah, that's a good thing that you mentioned. I do like to credit Riordan quite a bit with like growing in this
Hmm.
series that he does like the characters grow in each book and I think the situations that they're in become a little fuller. This one is probably the youngest and like
Mhm.
narrowest mindset of them all maybe for Percy. And but I do think that the other characters also grow a lot in the series and I know like him as an author and like his brand, he has done a lot of like good work. I shouldn't say good work, but he tries really hard to include like new voices and different forms of representation in his works, which I really appreciate from a white man who is very successful to be trying to incorporate new voices and get new perspectives into his work and his brand.
I
Yeah.
respect him as an author, absolutely.
Hmm.
And the amount of work that he has put into making his books diverse and supporting marginalized authors, I think that's
Hmm.
really admirable.
Yeah.
But then in
I
this
think
book,
But in this book, it's his first
uh,
one out. It's a
I,
little bit more of a struggle.
all
yeah.
of the
Definitely
all of the
is.
human bad guys are ugly girls. Or
Hmm.
like all of the bullies are ugly girls, and their
Yes.
ugliness is described at length.
Yeah, there is a very specific thing in young kids media to be like ugly or fatness equals
Is
bad.
bad.
Like,
Hmm.
because if you
Hmm.
think about like, I always think about the Little Mermaid with Ursula, where it's like, ooh, she's fat, so she's obviously evil, or like, ooh, she's
Except she had a
ugly.
banger of a song.
I
And so how could
know.
anyone associate that being bad?
But like I do think that this does fall into this where like Annabeth is the prettiest girl ever and she's very kind and headstrong and she does fall into like female best friend of the late 90s and early 2000s where it's like I am very headstrong but also my personality is books and you're just like okay sure I do appreciate that she also struggled with dyslexia like Percy because I do think that that's important representation for kids who are young and probably don't see a lot
Well,
of that
and isn't
uh
that because Riordan was writing for his son who
Yes.
yes
struggles with both of those things?
Hmm.
yes we,
Does this book follow the theory that the best kids books are written for a specific kid?
oh I didn't know
I
that
don't know that
theory.
theory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's not universal, but
I've
I
if
often
you
heard
have,
writers say like write a book like if their best advice is to write the book that you want to read and so then people
Mhm.
will like use something that they've personally dealt with and they'll write it and it ends up being really good. So maybe that's semi adjacent to that.
It sounds related, I agree. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to have books like this where like the ADHD and dyslexia are like they're commonly associated with these demigod children, because of like specific reasons, but also for a young kid who struggles with this and who gets frustrated. It's amazing that they can be like, "Oh, I'm just like Percy Jackson." Like sometimes kids need that level of representation, and I
Hmm.
think that that's very beautiful because like I know for a fact my 10-year-old nephew, who likely has ADHD, is reading these books currently, and like he gets in trouble for like needing to kick his legs at school and things like that. It's like that could be really frustrating for a kid to be singled out, but to see someone who's fighting monsters and happens to have those details about them is very cool.
Yeah, to be the hero.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah. I know we were kind of talking about Annabeth. What was everyone's reads on her as for adult women reading a book for children?
I mean, there's not a lot of women or girls in this in general because the
No.
mom dies right away. And so Annabeth's really like the main female representation.
Yeah.
You don't think Clarissa counts or Clarice?
Eh, she's bad.
She's not very kind and she's described terribly. She does get
Yeah.
like a little bit of a growth in the next upcoming books,
Yeah.
which is nice, but in
But
this
she's
one,
very angry, even in the
yeah.
next couple of books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this poor child is so ugly, apparently. I
Yeah.
just, I, I'm not paraphrasing. Like that word is directly
Yeah.
used to describe
Yeah.
these girls, and it's like, ouch. They're 10 or
Yeah.
whatever.
It is weird how obsessed they are with like looks for 12-year-old kids, but
Hmm.
The other thing too, it's like kind of difficult, I guess, as adults, knowing that all of these children likely have some amount of familial trauma for us to be like, we hate Clarice because she is mean to Percy. And
I mean,
it's
she
like,
almost tries to stab him, so
mm,
like mean is
Yeah,
a
and then you
little
meet her
bit.
dad, and it's like, ooh, I don't know how I
yeah,
would come
Yeah.
out of that environment either.
it's just the whole big mess to try
Hmm.
and wrap your brains around the portrayals.
I mean, I feel like the camp does all of the campers a disservice by not making therapy mandatory.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a camp run by Dionysus, which is also damning.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he is in charge, but like Chiron should know better. Chiron's been
Yeah.
training heroes for, thousands and thousands of years. Like
Mhm.
he has no excuse.
Yeah, that is a good question. Is Chiron a good teacher? Because, like, I don't know.
This again falls into the incompetent adult trope that we have in a lot
Yeah.
of children's books where it's like they're helping us, they're in charge. And it's like they have helped so little that, and I don't know that they know what they're doing, that we could maybe write them out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I do feel again that Chiron is kind of like what a child imagines a teacher to be. And so it makes sense that that's the teacher you get in a kid's book. Um, but as an adult, I'm like, Chiron, you are failing these people.
Well, he also does that classic kids book thing where he says, "This thing is very important, but I refuse to explain why it's important." And I'm going to get upset that you don't understand how important it is on zero further explanation.
no.
Take my word for it, kid. It's
Yeah.
fine.
These stories that you have no reason to believe in are life and death, trust me.
No reason.
And I'm going to tell you that everything you think you saw is wrong.
Yeah, that is like the
Oh,
wildest thing of him like being like, here's the sword. Everything you see is wrong. Like don't talk
Yeah.
about it. Go away. It was a wild opening.
You're
yeah, a lot of
crazy.
the lying is frustrating. I don't really like those portrayals either in children's books where we have adults that are trying to hide things from children because I think that then is a it is a bad way to go about it because then you're going to like kind of influence children to not always trust helpful adults. And I get it, not all adults are helpful, but it sets up a weird dynamic to when to keep things secret and when not to that
It
I
does. In
is
some
iffy.
ways, I think it probably does reflect the experiences of childhood, though, where you feel like adults know all of these things that they're not
Mhm.
explaining to you.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'll tell you when you're older. Great, thanks.
super helpful.
Hmm.
There, I guess there's also a weird, like, this is really important because you could die, but also it means very little to the gods around us because we just reform. Like,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
also a wild thing where it becomes very video game-esque of like, well, you can't die, but the people around you will just repopulate after you kill them, so don't worry about it.
Well, that lets Percy still be a hero, right? He can go
Yeah.
around murdering everyone, but it's actually fine because they don't actually die. Uh,
And there's also stakes then for them, you know what I mean, where
mhm.
their lives are more at jeopardy because they could actually die. So if, if they were just like kind of reappearing, the book would be a lot less like, oh, we know that Percy's going to make it to the end because he's just going to repopulate every single
Well,
time.
that's fair. It's just weird to be like, oh yeah, all the people you murder. I guess it is what Lily said. Like, you have to be the hero because even though you killed people, you're still fine. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
and the one human who does die in this book, turns out Hades just kidnapped her, and so Mom
mhm.
was fine all along.
yeah,
I mean, would you count what the mom does to Gabe as killing?
I do think the mom
Yeah.
is technically a
Yeah,
murderer in this
Yeah.
book. Yeah, she really
he,
killed Gabe, and we
yeah,
just
Hmm.
kind of don't talk about it.
and makes a
And we
shit
never
ton of
mention it
money
again.
off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Enough money to buy a nice apartment and put in a tuition down payment.
what a wild statue to
Which is an
want.
interesting
Like,
lesson to impart on children.
yeah, that is very much like Gabe's the bad guy, so it's okay that he died.
Mm.
Like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that there was going to be a twist with Gabe, at least at the beginning, like when we first started the book. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to find out that he's also one of the, like satyr types who's been helping all along. And it's kind of like that because he's so smelly, he makes Percy smell like a human. But that wasn't what I wanted from it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying that it was like maybe their marriage was a ruse or something to
Mhm.
keep him safe, but no, it's just that he sucks so bad and he even smells so bad that he protects them, which
Mhm.
is
it's
I mean,
Which is
so
worse.
also
in
weird if you think about the fact that Percy's in boarding school and his mom is still stuck in an abusive marriage. That's always the
Mhm.
plot hole that I couldn't get past, where it's like,
Well, it's like,
she
why does
has to
she
live
have to
with him.
stay with him?
Yeah. Like, you could just live in the apartment downstairs at that point. Why did the
Mhm.
marriage have to happen?
Yeah, you think you just get like a really smelly dog or something, like
Yeah.
never bathe your dog and that will help. I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, never bathe yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But then, oh, you mean the mom?
Yeah,
Yes.
who's to
Yeah,
say that
okay.
it just has to be Gabe that's covering up the smell? Sally could have been covering up the smell all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, being really smelly is not necessarily what she wants to do, but isn't that better than what she ends up doing?
Yeah. It is such a weird choice to have her in an abusive marriage.
Mhm.
When also, like, you do have to meet Poseidon at the end, and for him to be like, yeah, I knew that that's what she had to do, but that's what she had to do. And it's like, well, no wonder these kids need therapy. Their parents are awful.
Mhm.
Like, ugh.
I did really enjoy the mystery of this book. So we find out early on that Zeus has accused Poseidon of stealing his thunderbolt. Um, and so everyone thinks Percy did it, right?
Mhm.
But obviously Percy did not. So he has to go find out who really did. And we start off on this journey where Percy assumes that it was Hades who did it to pin on Poseidon, to
Mhm.
get Zeus and Poseidon fighting. And I was a little annoyed by this, although that is purely because I have read enough Hades and Persephone retellings that I'm like, Hades wouldn't do that.
You're a Hades stan.
uh,
No.
completely unhinged from this universe, but
That's
I
amazing.
I did think that having Hades just be the bad guy because he's the god of death is a little simplistic, right? It's a little
Mhm.
overdone.
Yeah.
And then that turned out to also be a trick. So I was like,
Yeah.
yes, hell yeah.
He's just a boss who doesn't pay his people very well. So-
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we learned that Charon is buying really expensive like Italian wool suits.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
he's just like buying outside of his means.
Hmm.
That's fair. So
Mm.
funny.
But Hades does neglect his dog. There's no excuse
Yeah,
for
No,
that.
there
Yeah.
is no excuse for that.
So he's not a perfect person. So it's realistic.
Yes.
what did everyone think of Ares?
I mean, he's a dick.
How is
I
yeah.
Mhm.
Ares is such a weird god. Like this one went for like motorcycle bikeless person. Like I always think it's weird to see like Ares representation because people will go for like wild swings with him the most. And so he was an interesting person in this book to see more like rough around the edges type person.
It's also interesting how portrayals of Ares, I think, get affected by the creator needing to differentiate him from Athena somehow.
Mm.
Hmm.
Because we
Hmm.
got two gods of war. Like, why are there so many?
Yeah,
So Athena always, she's also the goddess of wisdom, so she always is very like cool, calm, and collected and logical, which means
diplomatic.
Ares always gets pushed so far the other way.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine you'd be very good at actual war if you behaved that way.
No,
I
probably
mean,
not.
no,
Yeah.
no.
He's
It's
not the king, or he's not the god of brawling.
it's wild that like Rick Riordan, like Lily brought this up, but like the stuff he kept in place where it's like, you know what we're gonna keep in this children's book? Infidelity with Aphrodite.
Yeah.
She's definitely cheating on her husband in this book.
And they're gonna go into it too. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't meet Aphrodite, but when we learn about Ares going on a date with her, Percy is like, hold on, she's married.
How dare you? Yeah, like you didn't even have to do that at this point. Like they could just be in love and like
Hmm.
it was just wild to be like, no, 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 we're gonna keep the marriage with Hephaestus. It's okay.
I mean, they could have even have been married in ancient Greece and gotten a divorce since then. Like, it's been a long
Yeah.
time.
Nope, everything has stayed the same with those two.
Yeah.
Again, real stakes. I mean, they're
Mhm.
making it real. I do think though that it's interesting to have the portrayal of Ares as the bad guy be like in kind of what you guys were saying already about how we have Athena, who's like this reasonable diplomatic god of war, and then we have the portrayal of Ares kind of being this like a little bit like uncontrollable rage type war. And I don't know if that's more of a comment on like the different ways to approach war or how war can get out of hand more. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I guess I was seeing Ares as more of a chaotic villain than other portrayals that we could have gotten. Because Hades, I feel like usually we see Hades portrayed as someone who's kind of got like a master plan, and Ares very much seemed like a I'm just gonna do things on a whim and because I'm enraged and see how they work out.
I mean, for me, I think the interesting thing about Ares is that he's being manipulated.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's not he's got some kind of thing going on with Kronos.
Hmm.
Kronos is controlling him in
Yep.
some way or other.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Riordan's portrayal of Ares interesting to me. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I think his Ares is just kind of a bog standard dick. And
When,
I'm not sure
I
if
mean,
it's
he's just like he's seeking power too.
yeah,
So
mhm.
like I'm not sure if it's quite as considered as what you were saying, Laura, about there being a lot of
I'm
thought
giving too
going
much
into.
credit.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that because this is a children's book, it's much more of a simplistic thing of, well, I need them to be different somehow. So Athena's going to be the smart one, and Ares is going to be the brash one.
But
Well,
also oh, go ahead, Lily.
I really liked Ares during his first introduction when he finds Percy and his friends and is like, "Hey, I have this other quest for you. Like, I can't do this because I can't do things directly, right?
Hmm.
So I need a human to do it." Like he bargains with him, and he's not like kind and reasonable during this scene. He's still antagonistic and
Hmm.
needling Percy to try to get him to get angry. But ultimately reasonable and, here is a deal that could be mutually beneficial. And I thought that was really interesting, right? Like
Mhm.
he's still trying to enrage Percy just because that's what he does, but he has his own goals. It could help both of them out. And then when it turned out that all of that was a ruse, I was like, oh, dang.
It's also weird just in a larger like sociological review because this book came out in 2005, and I don't know if you remember what was happening in America during 2005, but we're still pretty early on into like the Iraq War. And so
Mhm.
it is very interesting that Riordan's choice for Ares was kind of someone who can quickly fly off the handle and be manipulated when you look at it
Mhm.
in the historical context, which I always think that that's weird when you're like, well, what was going on? Is this post 9/11 world we're living in? And it is. So I do wonder, like, obviously I agree on some level with Sarah of like, oh, it probably is not that deep, but this is a book that got published during that time, and like a lot of people were more critical of how you treated the war in
Some of
2005.
those influences may be coming through in the writing.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. This was more at the beginning of the book when we're getting introduced to the world, and it, it was mostly around why are there Greek gods in the United States? But we
Because
kept
we're the
coming
most important
back
person.
to this idea of the West. It was the
Hmm.
cradle of the West, and Greece was the cradle of the West back then, and America is apparently the cradle of the West now, um, which I thought raised some questions in me as an adult. But more specifically, or I think maybe a more reasonable question for a kid's book is, do we ever find out what's happening in the East?
No,
Does that ever come
No,
up?
no,
no, this
Oh.
is
we don't
heavily
care about that.
American.
We don't care about that.
It
Moving on.
just the fact that it was always phrased that way made me think that Riordan might have been leaving space for that, right? Like maybe
That
there are
also
other
maybe ties
pantheons.
into what Hannah was saying too about this being not that far off from 9/11, that
Yeah.
we were very much Western US centric, like this is America. You know,
USA,
yeah,
freedom fries.
Well, but
exactly.
but isn't there a series that does deal with like other pantheons? Like, isn't there a series that's Egyptian mythology?
Yes. But I think that that one came out
I mean, it comes out much
a lot
later.
later.
Yeah.
But
So he does make corrections. Yeah.
yeah, that's really because it,
But this
it was
series
clear
in
in this
particular,
book, yeah,
Yeah.
no. But I
no.
like that it does happen eventually. Although,
Yeah.
um, any anyway, sorry, tangent.
No,
No, I
go
thought that was a
ahead.
good point.
Have a good tangent. So,
Well, just on a more simplistic level, also a lot of the monsters when they were in human disguise are described as having darker skin.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's
not
like, all
great.
right, that's not.
Hmm.
We can stop, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is weird
The,
reading certain things in 2025.
yeah. That's like I was mentioning before, like a lot of the mentions of like Mr. Brenner being a wheelchair user, some of those things I remember
Yeah.
not sitting the best with me when I read them. Like, yeah, this isn't the best way to word this. And some of those situations being a little off. Also, yes, the monsters being coded a certain way is bad.
Mhm.
Not
And
Well,
a
and
fan.
it's it's just the monsters, right? We don't
Yeah,
hear about any of the demigod campers being anything but pasty white.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. So,
And I do think Riordan has gone on to say, like, yeah, that is my bad. I hope people
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
fix that in the future, which
yeah.
is exactly what you're supposed to do is like
Yeah,
Hmm.
acknowledge you're failing and try to
and
make it better.
correct
So,
Hmm.
going forward.
yeah. But I think you are right that most people are
Hmm.
pasty, pasty white, if good, and if not, a little bit of melanin in that skin,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
and
uh,
all of the monsters are also women.
I mean,
yeah.
the Minotaur is an underwear wearing kind of coated man, isn't?
Okay.
He's also
Yes.
like
With
he's a beast though. So
yeah.
like it is harder where it's like masculine beast or all women. And I think that that's also probably a feeling on Greek mythology because, like, of course,
Yeah.
in the first book, you're going to get a representation of Medusa because Medusa is
Hmm.
very well known. And then, of course, the Fates are going to be in there.
Hmm.
And then you have
Echidna.
Hmm.
yeah. So I do think some of that is just like he's hitting a lot of the famous gods and goddesses, but and
Well,
Ares is technically evil, but
And I mean, I feel like none of the big three are really coded as being awesome either. And
no.
Gabe is not coded as being awesome. So there are bad guys in this too.
Right, but
But
it's
yeah, I get
The
what you're
male
saying. There are a lot of
characters are like complex.
yeah, and it's
that's very fair.
The female
and
characters are evil, or the female
yeah,
baddies.
yeah.
yeah.
That's
Um,
very
And
fair.
also like the male characters who are slightly more villainous are also not like quote unquote monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Although I did really enjoy at the end when the Furies come back after Percy has fought with Ares and won Hades' helmet back from him. The Furies come to retrieve it, and he's like, "Oh, they're like they don't seem threatening at all now," and they were kind of like, "Good job, kid."
Hmm.
So I really appreciated that. Like they were just, mean because they were out to get him. Literally, that was their job at the time.
Yeah.
So I think if we had just seen more of that, it would have helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I think it is kind of like a combination of what you guys are all saying, where like Hannah is probably right that a lot of what he's pulling from is bad representation to begin with.
Hmm.
And then it's just like, let's make this modern. Still bad representation, but it's modern.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, the things that he chooses to play with, or like if he had just chosen different ones, I think it would have
right.
helped a lot. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and it is interesting in the future installments how he does like kind of grow with the female characters. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
like Annabeth is very beloved in this series, but in this first book, I remember her being like kind of abrasive and book girl, and there wasn't too much other than that. And then in later books, she gets like more of a story, or like Percy's mom gets a little bit more of a story and more
Hmm.
complex characteristics. Clarissa does, like, or Clarice.
And
Like,
we
there's
get
enough.
an
Yeah.
additional a couple of girls that are added
Yes.
into this too.
And I do think in future books, like not to spoil, I mean, Lily, you can go on and read all of these books, but in future books, they also play a lot with like Percy's self-centeredness, where he thinks
Yeah.
he is the hero in all of the books, and the book plays with like, you're not the hero, even though you are also the hero of the
Your name is on
series.
the cover, but it's not about you.
You have to stop making it about you. Like, and that is definitely pointed out again and again, which is helpful.
Hmm.
Um,
I
but yeah, oh, go ahead.
just one quick moment when Riordan does kind of flip with that like um pretty privileged thing is Luke ends up being a
Yeah.
bad guy, and he
Yes.
is
Yeah.
described
Let's
as
talk about Luke.
very hot. Even Percy gets flustered when Luke pays attention to him, which I loved.
Older boy, love to see it. That
Mhm.
he's taking an interest and taking Percy under his wing.
I mean, but
Mhm.
isn't he like 17?
Yeah,
Like
He's
So I think
19.
he's like 16
19.
or
Yeah.
17.
He's
Yeah.
So
he's
so it's
relatively old.
so it's
Yeah.
a little weird maybe that he's showing so much interest in Percy.
I
Well,
mean, as a little kid
he's
though,
a
like as a
camp
12,
counselor. He's supposed to
yeah.
be like helping the kids.
And they have a track record of always doing the right thing. Camp
Yeah.
counselors.
uh,
But in all seriousness, I can see the perspective that he's writing where like a 12-year-old boy would probably be thrilled that an older boy was, like, hey, come over here. I want to show you this thing. I really think that this would help you on your quest. Or here's these shoes. And a kid that's 12 being like, that's awesome. I'm like one of the big kids. This is so cool.
Yeah, I do think that is again this book weirdly, if I look back in my history of reading, this would fall very squarely into boy book as a
Mhm.
child, where I would be like, "Oh, this book is for boys. I have no interest in this book. I'm going to put it over here for my cousin to read."
Mhm.
But like it is kind of wish fulfillment for a boy book to be like, oh, I went to this amazing camp and I'm the specialist of the special. And this guy who everyone wants to be around me. And that's kind of the bait and switch where it's like, yeah, of course you want the older kid to think you're cool when you're 12. It takes being an adult to be like, an older kid shouldn't think you're the coolest person in the room. Like, but
And
it
that
is
does
that wish
end up being
fulfillment.
sinister though,
Yeah,
which
it
was good.
does.
Yep.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
don't trust that guy.
Yeah.
It's also
Um,
interesting too that Luke is kind of like, I'm gonna take him down from the inside and I'm gonna burn it all to the ground type person, which I feel like you don't often get that type of character in kids' books.
Yeah, he is like much more sinister, where he's just trying to
Hmm.
like sneak these shoes to Percy and ask him if he's wearing them and like kind of use his pretty privilege to his own advantage, where like a lot more people trust him in the room because he's good looking and very
Hmm.
strong and very like affable, but that he can use that to his advantage and really betray all of those around him.
Yeah. And he's also got a high level of trauma, so he's like, I think that all of them should be taken out, and I don't like any of the gods, especially Hermes, who we find is not a really great person and is just flighty. And yeah, so it's interesting to have, I guess, in my opinion, Luke be kind of that like, they all suck. That's why I'm working with the big bad guy to take them all out.
I mean, but also, like, Luke's main issue with Hermes isn't that he's flighty and a bad parent, it's that he gave him the same quest that someone else had, like that Hercules had, and he doesn't like that it's a repeat.
His dad doesn't think he's special.
I do think it's interesting that that is where Luke's motivation comes because I also think the rest of the book is proving that like Luke's motivations aren't fully bad. Like
Hmm.
He has
Percy,
acknowledged, or like he's made the connection that this is a bad system.
Yeah.
yeah. And Percy goes on this quest where he is put through the ringer and he is put into mortal danger again and again. And he is being used as a pawn in a bunch of adult, like gods who are trying to manipulate him to get what they want. And then he meets his dad, and his dad kind of sucks in this book, if I'm
Yeah.
remembering correctly. Like, he's not that great. He doesn't spend any time with him. And
Mhm.
so it would make sense that after that, Percy is a little bit like the rose-colored glasses come off, and Luke's sitting there like, look, this is a bad gig. We are treated poorly by
Mhm.
these people. And he has kind of proven right in this first book, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
just doesn't have resources to do anything about it because he is, I mean, 17 or 18 or whatever, but
Hmm.
he's been at this camp his whole life. Like, what other option does he have to do something about it?
Yeah.
Right.
like,
Yeah,
he does have a point, but he also needs therapy.
oh yeah,
Well,
no, if he
I
had
mean, they all
therapy,
need therapy.
yeah.
Yes, they all need therapy.
especially Hermes' cabin, because that one is just like
Yes.
overrun with his children. Like that also has to hurt a lot to be like, oh, look, my dad's just running around creating all these children that he'll never spend time with. That's
Mm,
like my
And also
favorite.
the
having
way that they're treated in the different cabins too, where it's like that one has tons of kids in it, and it's like Percy's special. He gets this fancy cabin all to himself. Like,
Hmm.
come on.
I
Yeah.
do, having read it yesterday, Hermes' cabin is also where they put all of the undecided.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's not all Hermes' children.
Hmm.
No, but it's a lot of his children. And like I think they
Hmm.
Yeah.
made a crack like oftentimes they put them there because A, it's probably Hermes' children, and B, that they're the ones for travelers. And it's like Hermes is just like railing through America apparently,
I
and
also
just
feel
being
weird
an
about like
absentee father.
the claiming of the kids that has to occur at the camp. That is a really icky situation to me where it's like they have to be claimed by their parent in order to like receive this quote unquote honor of knowing what their skills are and where they belong. And that feels kind of icky to have kids have to feel like they need to be acknowledged by a biological relative to feel like there's some sort of acceptance and that they are worthy. Ugh, that's icky.
Well, it reminds me very much of like the the fantasy version of like bastards and kings, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to be acknowledged by your parent to get the inheritance kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's almost just interacting with that classic fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But pulling the wrong elements from it, maybe.
for sure. Yeah, in 2005, like we can update it a little bit more to,
Mhm.
yeah.
I have so many questions about like
Yes.
where this goes. There's so many books. Holy shit. Good job, Ricky.
So I think this series, there's only six. I've read
Yes.
five of them, and the sixth one came out like just last year, I think. And it's like, I think Percy's an adult now in
That's really
the
funny.
sixth one. So this series is the only one that I have any reference surrounding. So I don't know how many questions I could answer, but he has a ton of works.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just when you open that first page and it's also by Rick Riordan and it's like 2 point
Hmm.
font the whole dang
Oh
page.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
damn.
He's very prolific.
Yeah. Um,
I will say he's also really good about like interacting with fans online, which I think is kind of sweet. Like I have even noticed just on like Goodreads that he'll go on and fairly recently too that he has answered questions that kids have asked him about characters or whatever. And I'm like, that's actually really sweet that he's like, well, actually, Percy did this or that. I'm like, okay, well, that's cute. Keep doing that.
yeah. I think I asked most of my burning ones as we were going, like, nice to hear that there is an additional female character that shows up eventually, ever.
Yeah, there's definitely a
Uh,
couple.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and the
The
the Egyptian mythology one is the Kane Chronicles, and then he's got a Norse mythology series that's Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, and then most of his works I think are Greek
And
do you know
mythology.
off
aren't
the top?
there isn't there like a Roman god series too?
That I don't know.
I'm pretty sure
Hmm,
that the Roman gods show up at some point.
Okay.
interesting. In this book, it insists they're the same.
I'm I'm pretty sure that I read
I,
on the Wikipedia page.
he could have changed the lore. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm curious, are they considered like in the same universe, or is it in this world, it's the Norse gods that are real?
So they are all connected. I do know this because the
Yeah,
Norse one has the cousin of Annabeth in it. So like
Cool.
yeah.
That's fun.
which I think that's kind of cool too to have them all be interconnected.
Well, it I always get like a weird feeling when an author is like, this mythology is the true one. And so I like
But
giving
yeah,
us some gray area and working in some alternatives.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I do think there's a lot that goes into these. So, yeah, I also haven't read the sixth one, Laura, but I read the first five, which is kind of like the
Mhm.
main series. I feel like the sixth
Yeah,
one is just kind of created to be
fan
created
service.
at some point. Yeah, he's an adult now. I will say that the future female characters, Lily, get the treatment of like, there's another female character who's besties with Percy. So, of course, Annabeth hates her because
And there
women
are
be
more
fighting
monster women
and more
too.
monster women.
Not
There's
great
also
portrayals.
a lot of like, not oblique references to, but seemingly unconnected to anything references to pollution. Anytime they are in any kind of nature, they're like, oh, it's full of trash, or the Nereid couldn't even talk to him in the Mississippi because it was so full of like toxic waste. And even the Santa Monica beach was apparently too toxic to swim in. And I was like,
I must have just glossed over all of that
I
because
think
I
there's
There's
a
a
don't
there's a
go
remember.
lot.
anywhere? Does it go anywhere?
so I do know that Grover has a huge arc, like
Yes.
his entire
Hmm.
arc is very much like getting back to nature.
Hmm.
He's searching for like the main satyr. I can't remember who it's
Pan.
called.
Pan.
Pan.
Pans,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
yes. He's searching for Pan. And it's very much discussed that like without Pan, nature is dying in some type of way. So I think all those references are supposed to be like paving the way for Grover's arc where he wants to search for Pan and he wants to actually find him and like him
Mhm.
having to like fight his way to get like to where he wants to be because he is a young man of 30 fighting his own battles with these children.
Okay. See, I needed it to be going somewhere because I was like, this is mysterious.
It definitely goes somewhere. I think that's
Mhm.
very much Grover's energy of like the pollution is what he's concerned
Mhm.
with.
Excellent.
But again, there's a weird thing in these books where I really don't know what Percy's motivations are. I think he's very much a self-insert character,
Yeah.
but it is difficult when you're looking at like the series as a whole because if you look at Annabeth, like we talked about how she like loved architecture, how she has to like get back with her dad and like find out if her stepmother's actually evil or not. And then you have like Grover who's like into the nature and trying to but I can never really put my finger on what Percy wants other than like he wants to be at Camp Half-Blood and that's about it.
And be good at being a demigod.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of anything with like these self-insert characters, a lot of it is just like a sense of wanting community. And I think for him, that's a lot of what it is just like his goal is to have the friends, to have the community at Camp Half-Blood because he didn't have that at school. He didn't have many friends at school. He had a hard time fitting in. And so to have these people that understand and respect him, I think that in itself is maybe the goal, is why it doesn't seem like he has a big overarching like thing that he's working towards, but it's like he almost immediately finds that thing that he's searching for in that community, maybe.
Yeah. I always think it's so weird reading self-insert characters as an adult because I'm like, what am I rooting for with you? Like
I
What's your
inserted myself
deal?
into that because I have no friends.
Laura's like, I
I
actually
said
felt
it's
very
community.
connected to him.
It's the community. And you guys are all like, no, that's not what we read. So,
I think you're right. I always just think it's weird when that's like the motivation then, because like technically he gets that community within the first book.
But he
I
has to
mean,
save it.
Yeah, that's true.
it's also a children's book that is going to be like about the power of friendship. So there's going to be this continual working towards remaining friends because there is a lot of back and forth and situations change in the series too, that they don't always have the closest of relationships. So they are always kind of like developing and working and trying to figure out like how their relationships with each other it is the big three in this series go of Grover, Percy, and Annabeth.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah.
did really like how uh well, Annabeth is always very, not always, tends to be antagonistic towards Percy because she's a child of Athena and he is a child of Poseidon, and their parents don't get along,
Mhm.
which means they can't get along. And that is unraveled a little bit. Maybe not explored fully, but definitely ultimately decided that that is dumb and
Yeah.
no.
They said, let's not do this. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So I
Yeah,
thought that was nice.
I do think it's nice to have that because it is like a subtle way of bringing in, that consistency that we talked about of like, oh, let's have these kids learn a little bit about Greek mythology, like have them learn about Poseidon and
Mhm.
Athena and why they didn't like that stuff. So I do think that's nice.
Hmm. I
I
remember avoiding these books because when I was a teenager, because I was enough into Greek myths and enough of a little shit that I was like, that's not correct. I've grown out of it.
I
that's
do think like we probably were all of the age that we were maybe just like a little too old to, or I don't know, maybe you guys can relate to this. Hannah and I have talked about this before, that when we were in high school, we were kind of pushed away from reading middle grade and told like, oh, you
Hmm.
need to read classics and you need kind of pushed towards reading adult lit. And so I think maybe all of us kind of being around the same age, we were maybe kind of pushed more towards not reading Percy Jackson books when they came out because those are little kids' books. You shouldn't want to read those. And I can definitely see that standpoint of being like, I am so adept at all things Greek mythology. I cannot even look at Percy Jackson. The cover of that disgusts me even. So yeah, I can definitely see that take.
well,
Which
oh, go ahead.
oh, it wasn't even consistent. There were definitely mythology retellings that I did get into, so
Oh,
I was just being, 14 or
Yeah.
whatever.
that is 100% what always
Yeah.
happens. But we also, I know we talked about this a little bit off air. Maybe we'll talk about it more next week or not next week, but with the discussion of the TV show. But Sarah read these books originally because the movies were coming out. And I think
Yes.
when I originally read them, it was also because the movies were coming out. And then I saw the casting, and I have a weird vendetta against the main character who played Annabeth. And so that's
Alexandria
Alexandria
Daddario.
Daddario. I cannot stand her for no reason other than that woman for a while was playing like 16-year-olds, but also 35-year-olds with
Yes.
no rhyme or reason. And I personally took that as like a deep offense to myself. Uh,
Hannah thinks it's her deciding that she was going, that was like her own personal decision, not for work. She
no.
just made that personal decision where she was like, I will only play 15-year-olds or 40-year-olds.
It was just very weird her casting for a good long while because like she was
Mhm.
cast in those movies when she was doing the show White Collar and she was the
Oh,
main love interest in White Collar, which makes very little sense because those were all adult men running around, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. She was
So
in a lot of rom-coms and stuff too.
yeah, she's just a very specific person. But I do know that like when the TV shows came out, those were very polarizing because they decided to like age up all the kids
Oh, you mean the
exponentially.
movies when the
The
movies came
movies,
out?
yeah, the movies
Yeah.
came out. So I do think that it's a weird time for Sarah to get into them because you read them to watch the movie, and then I was like reading them, and I
Well,
was like, I'm too old for these movies, and
I'm
didn't watch the
I'm
movie.
pretty sure that I actually watched the movie first.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
um, and then thought Luke, the actor playing Luke, was hot. So decided that I was going to go and read the books that I could because when I get into something, I like get really into it. So
Mm,
I was like, okay, I'm gonna go read all of these.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember thinking that man was very attractive.
Yeah.
I do
But
remember thinking that those movies were a total letdown, but
Sean Bean plays Zeus. Sorry, I
yes.
am on IMDb now.
oh,
Have you
you
not
should
seen these
be.
movies, Lily?
No, I went
Oh,
into this completely blank slate, except I knew that
oh my.
Percy Jackson was the son of Poseidon. That's all I knew.
I've only seen the
Those,
first movie to be clear.
the
I don't think I
second movie
watched the second
is
one.
quite bad.
I can't imagine.
I think even Rick was kind of like, yeah, I'm not super thrilled about these movies.
Yeah. And I guess we can get into them next time with the discussion of like movie versus TV show of it all. And maybe I'll watch the movie in the next time period so we can
Good luck.
compare. Um, but yeah, those movies came out during a time of like kid installments where it was like, well, we can't make this for children. We need to make it for teenagers to like salivate in the movie theater, which is a choice.
On
Yeah.
the other hand, it does feel a little bit better to have older characters going through these things.
That is
Yeah.
true. Pierce Brosnan was in this movie. Wow.
Yes, he
Um,
was Chiron.
Rosario Dawson. Wow, just so many people. This
Yes.
was a stacked cast. Um,
I want to say Rosario was Persephone.
yes, and Uma
Okay.
Thurman as Medusa.
Medusa, yes.
Wow.
Iconic portrayal.
Oh, this
Hmm.
is gonna do great things for my movie grid game.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, any final thoughts that we haven't discussed about this book?
Other than the things we, I won't say nitpicked on, but overall, I agree. I think this was a really solid kids book. I don't think there's anything in it that if I handed it to a kid today, I'd be like, "Ooh, but come talk to me about this one thing after."
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? Like there's some stuff that I'm like, not great, but there's nothing that makes me go, "Yikes."
Well, and especially because I do think that Riordan gets better
Correct.
Hmm.
um, as the series progresses. So I'm not as like
Concerned.
yeah, not as concerned about some
Hmm.
of the missteps in this book. And I do think that it's a solid children's book. Um, I probably enjoyed it more when I was reading it at 18 than I did reading it today.
Shocking.
Um, I know what a wild statement from me, but like yeah, it's a good kids book.
I think it's probably easier for this book to hold up with some of the fantasy elements. Like, I think if this were like one of our high school dramas that we read, those are very hard to
Yeah.
hold up just because like kids are dealing with different things and there's different language around issues that
Hmm.
we used to read about in high school. But I do think like this is a very stellar book for books we've read in the past. I think a lot of our talks have always ended in like, would you recommend this book? And like just Ella, we were all like, no, thank you.
I will
But
say I have bought this entire original series for my nephew. I gave it to him for Christmas, and he's in third grade, and so uh, well, he is in 4th grade now, but he was in 3rd grade last year when I gave it to him.
Mhm.
And I felt very comfortable handing it over to a young boy. I think that the series in general has good messages for especially young boys.
Yes.
And I think, like we've said previously, because Riordan's like doing the work, it makes it a lot easier to take in some of these mistakes that have been made in this writing. And a lot of them are not near the mistakes that other books have made. So yeah, I think it holds up really well and pretty solid middle grade book for kids.
Yeah. I
And he's
also
also
recommended it to my nephew. So
it also seems like Riordan is just a good person.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so that also makes me feel better about recommending
Mhm.
the series.
Yes.
Of course. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Before we let you go, can you
Yes.
tell our listeners something you're reading, watching, and or enjoying right now?
I have been slowly making my way through the revised edition of the Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Mm.
I'm not very far. I may be like 20% in by this point, because I'll read like a letter or two and then put it down and do podcast reading. But it's been fun going back to his letters.
I have
I
been
love that.
playing oh sorry.
Nope, go ahead. I was just saying I love that she's reading the letters.
I've been playing a game called Gnomes. It is a tower defense game where you place little gnomes and you're trying to stop the goblins from trampling your crops and getting to your house. And I don't know if you guys played a lot of tower defenses when you were younger, but it's very much like a nostalgic itch for me.
Fun.
And it's hard finding a game that like feels the way I want it to. So it's been nice.
That's good.
Mhm.
Can I ask? I'm like unaware about video games. Like, how is
Mhm.
this played?
So you have little guys that you can place, and then you'll find out where the bad guys are going to come from, and they're going to
Okay.
travel from where they're coming from to your base. And then you try to put like obstacles in their path, to
Okay.
like make them take longer and then have them take damage as they go through the path.
So they can't get there. Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Got it.
That
Cool.
sounds very fun. So, well, thank you guys for coming on. We appreciate
Yes.
it so
Thank
much for
you.
another installment of Nostalgia Book Club. And to finish it out, can you tell everyone where to find you?
You can find us, we're on Blue Sky and Instagram at FictionFansPod. You can also email us at fictionfanspod@gmail.com. And our website is fictionfanspodcast.com, so you can find us there as well.
Perfect. Well, and you can
Awesome.
find us on Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram at OWWR Pod or ourpod.com. You can also join us over on our Discord or email us at ourpod@gmail.com. Uh, Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Please go follow Sarah and Lily if you aren't already.
Yes.
I love their podcast so much. And we just really love having you guys back on to discuss
Yeah. Thanks
Percy
again.
Jackson and the Lightning Thief. And if people liked this conversation, they should tune in for when we do our TV Tuesday with you two of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, or Percy Jackson season 1, where we will be covering that just in time for season 2 to come out. So
Yes.
glad to have you guys back on for that.
I'm so ready.
Sarah's like, I have notes that I'm holding on to. Well, we appreciate it. We can't wait to talk more soon.
Thank you guys so
Bye.
much for
Oh, sorry. No,
Go
praise.
ahead.
We'll
No,
leave it
We
out.
always want praise.
Yeah.
thank you so much for inviting us. We always
Yeah.
look forward to conversations with you, and this was such a fun topic. I can't believe I haven't read these books before.
I
So
know.
much
What a
better than
travesty that
our
we read them as
Amish
adults.
Christmas books.
Can't wait to talk again.
Bye.
Bye.